there. Welcome to Hobie on YouTube. I'd like to talk about Boker Plus Tech Tools one last time, so consider this to be the epilogue or coda to the Boker Plus Tech Tools story as told by your friend Hobie. So these are knives that Boker brought out in late 2015 or early 2016, about 8 years ago, so they've been around a while now and probably have lasted longer than a lot of people thought they might. They brought them out under their Boker Plus line. So they're not made in Germany, they're made in Asia, most likely China. But they are a multi-tool pocket knife. So they're a knife-based multi-tool. Boker says designed to modernize their iconic camp knife, but really to more directly take on Victorinox Swiss Army knives, which is a tall order because you're taking on, this global icon that really owns the space. But they offered a lot of things that Victorinox just wasn't offering, and things that Victorinox owners and fans had been asking Victorinox for years. As a matter of fact, they've been modding their knives to get these things. And what I'm talking about really is like better blade steel, better handle material, more choices in the handles, modern construction like torque screws, pocket clips, and things like that. So Boker brought all these things to the market, but unfortunately, I don't think people have been buying them very much. When they first came out, they had 6 or 7 different models with different tool configurations, and they offered all of them in 2 different handle styles, a black G10 called the City line and a green G10 called the Outdoors line. And later they came and they offered a G10 laminate, a carbon fiber laminate on G10 across the whole line. But now they only offer 4 different models, and 2 of them really aren't even Swiss Army type knives. They offer a number 1, which is a single blade knife, so it's just really a pocket knife. They offer the number 2, which is their 2-layer knife. In addition to the blade, it adds a screwdriver, bottle opener, and a small serrated blade with a corkscrew on the back. And then they offer a number 4, which is kind of their fully loaded knife. So in addition to what I just said, it adds scissors, a saw, pliers, and a reamer on the back. The 4th model is now the Boker Tech Tool Fork, which is a 2-layer model with a blade and a fork. And since the knife doesn't come apart, I think it's a dumb idea. I don't know about you, but I don't like to try to cut my food on the plate with the knife pushing it around if I don't have a fork in the other hand to hold it still. So I don't think that idea will last very long. But they've also reduced the scale materials that you can pick from as well. This outdoor green G10 has been gone for a long time. Matter of fact, it's kind of hard to get these now on a new knife. And they at one time offered on the 1 and the 2-layer knives zebra wood and ebony, but I think that's phased out completely for the 2-layer, and they only offer the zebra wood on the 1-layer. So I'm getting all this information from Boker's German website, Boker's USA website, what they're offering there, and what shows up in the 2023 catalog. So again, it's kind of a shrinking product lineup, gets smaller and smaller, the choices get narrower and narrower, and I'm afraid Boker eventually is just going to phase these out. Phase them out or just get them down to the single blade version, which is where they seem to be going, because that's where they offer the most choices. You can get lots of different handle materials on those. You can get the black G10. You can get the carbon fiber. You can get the zebra wood. You can get micarta. You can now get titanium. And then you can get a blue or orange pattern G10 on knives they offer with regular and or damask blades. I have a lot of experience with these knives. I've been buying them from practically the beginning, and then I started buying them to modify them and resell them, and I must have done that with 30 different knives. I would put different handle treatments on them, and then I would swap out that serrated blade nobody liked for different tools, and that seemed to be really popular. But I don't do that anymore. Please don't ask me to. The 4 you see there on the table are just the ones that I've kept for myself. So I'll just show you what I have real quick. This is the number 2, so it's the 2-layer knife, and it originally came with the black G10 scales. So here's what they look like. I really like them. They've got kind of a snakeskin pattern, and of course they do have that radius curve. They're cheeky. They make the knife actually seem kind of thinner, certainly friendly to hold. I wanted something different, so I put Bubinga wood on here. I did radius the edges here, but as you can see, the wood is flat, so it does give the knife a little different look. And the other modification I made here is I took the serrated blade off and replaced it with a Victorinox inline Phillips, which I find really handy to have inline screwdrivers, flathead, and Phillips on the knife. The two-layer versions just come with a corkscrew on the back. They don't come with the reamer, which is too bad. But that's a very handy knife. I think that's pretty much everything I need on a daily basis, so it is really my most popular EDC. This one here is a three-layer version, so they discontinued the three-layer versions, and used to be able to get those either with a saw, which this one has, or scissors. Most of the tools that Boker Tech Tools have are just as good as the Victorinox tools. They're comparable Victorinox tools, including the saw. The saw is excellent. It's just as good as a Victorinox saw on a 91mm knife. The exception would be the scissors, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So now here's one with, I did not sharpen the inside of the cap lifter there, so that's just totally standard, and you can see what it looks like with the wire bender stripper. Now here is they all come like this. It doesn't matter if the single layer versions don't, of course, but 2, 3, any version they sold beyond the single blade knife had this tool, and people hate it, and they hate it for a good reason. It's dangerous and it's awkward, and I don't know why Boker never changed it, but by never changing it, they've continued, I think, to lose sales. Had they done this one thing, I think they would have been a lot more competitive. The problem with it is it locks out at this odd angle, so while that might be really good for like catching cords and straps to cut them with this serrated blade, it's an absolutely terrible idea for the screwdriver tip. By the way, it's not a bad screwdriver tip. It actually works best on Phillips screws. The problem with it is, it's first of all, it's awkward. What angle are you going to hold that, at? Number two, it's super dangerous. So like if you have a hammer grip on that and your hand slips up or the blade closes, you're going to cut yourself badly. If you do have one of these and you want to use that as a screwdriver, I suggest you use a pinch grip to keep your fingers out of harm's way. Now when you get that blade, you get this little retractable lanyard hole, which if you're using the pocket clip, that's really useless. But I guess if you were to take the pocket clip off, that could have some use. And the three-layer versions do have a reamer. It's sharpened. It's very sharp. It's very pointy, and it does have a sewing eye. It's every bit as good as a Victorinox reamer. So this knife is pretty standard, but I did do one modification to it, and that was to knock down the edges on these carbon fiber scales. Here's how they come, and as you can see, they're very flat, but they also have a sharp edge. So I just took a Dremel with a sanding wheel and went around and knocked that edge off and gave it a nice radiused edge, working mostly on the top and the bottom and very little at the ends. I was able to maintain a really nice fit, but it just gives the knife a much better feel in the hand, and I think it makes it look better too. This is another three-layer version. I think it also has a saw, yes. The mod here I did, of course, is new handle scales. I think this is the one that came with the carbon fiber, but that is Arctic Blue Kieranite. I sold several that had the Patriot, the red, white, and blue swirl Kieranite, and a few with this Arctic Blue, which I think is just really pretty. It just does all kinds of things in the sunlight. The other mod that I did to this too is I swapped out the, see where my nail nick is, I swapped out the angled serrated blade with another inline Phillips. And then finally, this is a three-layer version, but instead of having the saw, it has scissors. And this is the only tool that I think really just does not compare well with Victorinox. It's really hard to compete with Victorinox scissors. They've got a way of angling, or curving rather, the cutting edge of their scissors that keeps pressure on the object, so they snip through just about anything. These tend to fail with thicker material like heavy cardboard or paracord. They will spread apart and just kind of pinch the object. The hack around that is simple. If you put a little outward pressure as you're cutting down here on this lever, it will keep the blades tightly together and snip right through your paracord or your cardboard, but you kind of have to give it a little sideways push. Otherwise, they're really good scissors. They're sturdy. They've got that captive spring bar like the wingers used to have. You don't have to worry about a little flimsy scissor spring breaking and then having to replace that, which is a problem with Victorinox scissors. This is also not standard because it has the Phillips driver on the back. Boker never offered a Phillips driver on a 2 or 3 layer knife, unfortunately. I think you had to go to the 4 or maybe even the 5 to get the Phillips. And so I had swapped this out. A Victorinox Phillips will not fit this, by the way. That's another Boker Phillips that I got from one of those bigger knives and swapped out. Now, CountyCom, an online seller, used to have special factory orders from Boker, the number 2s, the 2-layer knives with Phillips. I don't know if they still sell those or not, but you might want to go there if you're looking for one of those. The other modification that I made to this knife was that I replaced the serrated blade with a Victorinox can opener, one from an 84mm knife, so a smaller size. You can use one from a 91mm. They're a little bigger and you have to make some adjustments, but they both work great. So that's just a look at the Boker Tech Tools that I have left. I don't think I'll be buying any more or modding anymore. But if something new and exciting comes along, I'll probably pick it up. Or I see a really good bargain secondhand or something on something. But, you know, it's kind of a shame. Boker's obviously shrinking down the line. I think they're just going to pretty much eliminate it eventually. It's just an economic reality. I don't think they're selling that well. And that's kind of ironic because they really kind of offered a lot of things people were asking for. So I don't know what the problem was. Well, I think for some people it was they were made in China. But for the most part, it's probably that serrated blade, which they never changed. So, hey, there you go. Hope you've enjoyed that. Hope you found it interesting. If you're into Boker Tech Tools, maybe. If you're not, maybe not so much. I am. I really like them. And I do appreciate you watching and listening. And have fun collecting.